I spent my youth raising my son to become a medical doctor. But in return, I was struck with cancer and endured excruciating pain. Only before my death did I realize that the cancer was actually a gift from my son. The reason? It was because, years ago, I insisted he attend extra lessons and forbade him from playing games. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the year when my son was in his final year of high school. This time, I chose to respect his decisions. But why was he now crying and begging me to control him? I am a failed cancer fighter. I battled cancer for 3 years. And now, I'm on the verge of death. Yet, I'm also a successful mother. For I have raised my son, Kimi, without a low sigh, into a medical doctor. Truthfully, I had long wanted to give up treatment. It was Kimi who kept refusing, always urging me to keep fighting, telling me I could defeat this illness, to spend more time with my son. I endured unimaginable torment. At this moment, Kimi was pushing my wheelchair, showing me the sunset, the last one I would ever see in my life. I let out a long breath. Kimi, after I die, don't be sad. I have no regrets. Seeing you succeed in your career is all I ever wanted. After I'm gone, don't let me hold you back. Marry soon. After waiting for a long time without hearing Kimi's reply, I turned to look, only to find him smiling. Confused, I asked, Kimi, what's going on? Kimi seemed to have accomplished something monumental, his smile widening. Why would I be sad? This outcome is exactly what I've always wanted. I was stunned. Unable to speak, Kimi stepped in front of me, crouched down, and looked directly into my eyes. Mom, why? The reason you have cancer is because of the health supplements I gave you. I shook my head slowly. How is that possible? Are you? Kimi smiled, but there was bitterness in his expression. I hate you. It was you who forced me into extra classes, into college. You made me give up my dreams, lost my love, and forced me to live this empty life with no future. I couldn't believe it. I murmured. But after I got cancer, it was you who begged me to get treatment. Exactly, Kimi replied coldly. Because I couldn't let you die easily. I wanted you to suffer. After saying this, he gazed at the sunset and added, look at this beautiful sunset. After today, you won't see another one. I wanted to argue, but I had no strength left. As Kimi's confession hung in the air, I breathed my last, filled with anger. I don't know how much time passed before I was suddenly awoken by a loud knocking on the door. Gasping for breath, I sat up in my familiar bedroom, feeling a little dazed. Had I been reborn? Before I could process anything, the door to the bedroom swung open with a bang, and there stood a much younger Kimi, filled with rage. Did you go to my teammates and tell them not to play games with me anymore? I've told you clearly, my dream is to be an esports professional. I don't want to attend any extra classes. I don't want to study medicine. Stop forcing your dreams on me. I sneered inwardly. So Kimi's so-called dream was to be an esports player? I'm not an unreasonable mother. If Kimi had the talent, I would definitely support him. But yesterday, I specially went to talk to his teammates to find out the truth. The feedback was sharp, not good enough, and yet obsessed. He's a noob. If you sprinkle some rice on the keyboard and throw a chicken on it, it would still play better than him. Kimi thought he could become a professional player only because his girlfriend once praised him, saying, baby, you're awesome. You could be a professional player. That single comment gave him blind confidence. And he thought gaming was his way out, after learning from the previous life's mistakes. I sighed. All right. I understand. I'll go and cancel the extra classes right now. And I won't interfere with your gaming anymore. Pursue your dreams. Kimi was stunned. He didn't know what to say and simply turned to leave. True to my word, I immediately called to cancel the extra classes. Although I had to pay a 20 cancellation fee, I still got some money back. I used the money, which I had originally set aside for Kimi's tuition and college fees, to buy investment gold bars. I knew full well that in the coming years, the price of gold would soar. This time, I would no longer interfere with Kimi's life, but I had to secure a backup for myself. I was going to see if he could truly live his dream without my intervention. Kimi didn't come out of his room again after that, probably waiting for me to apologize. Since I didn't call him to eat, he couldn't help but knock on my door late at night. With a hard tone, he said, "I'm hungry." I coldly replied, "The food's in the fridge. Heat it yourself." Kimi snapped, "Don't you know eating this might give me diarrhea?" Of course. I knew. Kimi has a sensitive stomach, and I've been the one taking care of him all these years. But now, I just nodded. "Then cook yourself some noodles. Close the door. I'm going to sleep." Kimi huffed angrily. "Do you think I'll compromise just because you treat me like this? No way. Even if I starve to death, I won't give up on my dream. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to the extra classes tomorrow. Even if you kneel and beg me, I won't go." I nodded. "I was about to tell you. I cancelled the extra classes today. You don't need to go. And even if you do, they won't let you in." Now, Kimi seemed slightly panicked, but he still thought I was bluffing. Snorting, "Don't regret it. Begging me later will be embarrassing." The next morning, when I didn't hear Kimi shouting for breakfast, I went to his room and found that he had run away from home. It seemed he was trying to threaten me with his disappearance. I noticed that he had taken his laptop and keyboard, so he was clearly planning to pursue his dream. I opened WeChat and saw his latest post on Moments. "Youth has no price. The madness is in the present. Starting today, I, Kimi, will live only for myself. I won't live for my mom anymore." The post was accompanied by a screenshot of a game scene. I couldn't help but roll my eyes and mutter, "What an idiot." I guessed that Kimi would come back in a few days. But it wasn't going to be so easy for him to return. I changed the locks to a password lock so that even if Kimi wanted to come back, he wouldn't be able to get in. However, instead of Kimi returning, I received a call from the police station. They told me that my son had been involved in a gang fight and was now at the station, urging me to come immediately. I didn't really want to go, but I was curious to see Kimi's current state. So, I tidied myself up and made my way to the station at a leisurely pace. When I arrived, I saw Kimi sitting there, his head wrapped in bandages with faint traces of blood leaking through. It seemed his run away from home hadn't been as happy as he thought. Kimi rolled his eyes when he saw me. "What are you doing here? I told you. I don't need you to interfere. I'm an adult now. I can take responsibility for myself." This rebellious attitude from a child was all too familiar to the police officers. They quickly pulled me aside. "Here's the situation. Yuki, your son Kimi got into a conflict while playing a game. The other side insulted him and his girlfriend in the game. Kimi couldn't win or even fight back, so he arranged to meet them offline. They started arguing as soon as they met, and then it escalated into a physical fight. Yeah, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. Sounds like Kimi's temper." I nodded. "What happened to the other person?" The officer sighed. "The other party has a fractured nose, which is considered a minor injury. Their parents are pressing charges. So we're calling you to talk to them first. If the case is officially filed, it could lead to detention and a criminal record." Only then did I notice that behind Kimi, in the conference room, sat a furious couple, glaring at me. Under the police officer's mediation, the four of us sat down to negotiate. The other party's parents looked me up and down. "Your son beat up mine like that? I won't let this slide. From what I know, your son is about to take the college entrance exam. If I don't drop the case, you should know better than anyone the consequences for him. Right?" I nodded, pretending to understand. "So, how do you want to handle this?" Kimi impatiently interrupted. "Can't you see? They want money to settle it privately. Just ask how much." "I'm busy. I don't have time to waste here." Maybe it was Kimi's rude indifference that triggered them. The other parents didn't hold back, their fingers interlaced. 100,000? I wasn't sure. Honestly, hadn't fulfilled what I'd say. I didn't even want to spend a dime on Kimi. Before they could answer, I stood up and turned to the officer. "I believe in the law. And Kimi is already an adult. Adults have to face the consequences of their actions." Kimi, seeing I wasn't joking, grew anxious. If you don't accept this number, how am I going to take the exam? This will leave a criminal record, and I could go to jail. I looked at Kimi with confusion. You don't want to go to school. You don't care about the exam. Isn't this what you wanted? You wouldn't be thinking of giving up your dream, would you? Kimi panicked, grabbing my hand. Mom, this isn't the time to be stubborn. Just pay the money now. We'll talk about the rest at home. I simply looked at him coldly, without answering. Kimi seemed to make a big decision. I promise I'll take the exam. I'll get a good score for you. Isn't that enough? I gently pulled his hand off my clothes. No need. Go chase your dreams. After that, I walked briskly out of the police station, feeling light and refreshed. When I got home, I slept more soundly than I had in a long time. But the next morning, I was woken by a knock on the door. I hastily threw on some clothes and went to answer it, only to find Anthony and Kimi standing there. I hadn't expected Anthony to go to the police station to bail Kimi out. Kimi seemed much calmer after spending some time at the police station. He didn't yell at me for not bailing him out, but quietly asked, "Why did you change the locks?" "Electronic locks are safer," I answered casually. Kimi saw that I had no intention of giving him the password and couldn't help asking, "So what's the password?" I casually mentioned my birthday. Kimi didn't know my birthday. Of course. And the password wasn't my birthday. His patience wore thin, and he finally snapped. "Why didn't you pay the money yesterday? Do you know I almost ended up in jail?" I replied simply, "I know." Anthony was also fuming at my attitude. "Yuki, what's going on with you? Are you really this indifferent about your son? Do you know how much he cried when I went to get him?" "I know. I heard him wailing outside the police station." Kimi froze. "If you heard it, why did you still leave? Am I not your son? I regret following you back then. I should have gone with my dad. At least he's the only one who truly cares about me." I pointed toward Kimi's room. "Then go ahead and pack your things. Go back with your dad now. Don't waste any more time." Kimi sneered. "Fine. I'll go. Just don't come begging me to come back." Anthony would never agree to that. He had just had a second baby. And if he brought such a rebellious son home, his wife would probably skin him alive. So, while Kimi went to his room, Anthony quickly slipped away. When Kimi came out and saw Anthony was gone, he assumed I had chased him off. "Why are you so evil? Can't stand seeing me reunite with my dad? You cancelled my tutoring and almost sent me to jail. What exactly are you planning?" I took a deep breath. "Kimi, I paid for that expensive tutoring for you. But you said I ruined your chance at your dream. You've told me multiple times you didn't want to study. You just wanted to play games." Kimi retorted. "It's not just about games." Oh, right. It's about becoming a professional player. I've already agreed to cancel your tutoring. You ran away from home and I didn't contact you. You couldn't control your bratty attitude and hurt someone. So how is that suddenly my fault?" Kimi, who was never good at speaking, couldn't find a retort to my words. He just extended his hand. "Fine, hadn't fulfilled my say. I'll go back to school. Give me some money." I handed him $200. Kimi's face fell. "This isn't enough. I promised you I'd go back to school. You should give me more." I already said. Whether you go to school or not is up to you. I can't pay for your schooling. If 200 isn't enough, I can take it back," I said, pretending to reach for the money. Kimi quickly grabbed it, speaking in a low voice. "Mom, my girlfriend's birthday is coming up. It would be embarrassing if I don't get her a gift. You remember other people's birthdays so well, but you can't even remember mine." I gave him a cold glance, said nothing, and turned back to my room. Maybe sensing my indifference, Kimi didn't dare ask me again. He stood there for a long time, holding the 200, before slowly returning to his room. I thought that without giving Kimi any money, he would have no way to manage. But I was wrong, he was quite clever. I watched through the surveillance cameras as Kimi searched frantically through my house. But he came up empty-handed, standing in the living room, scratching his head in confusion. He had no idea what to do next. To provide Kimi with the best education, I had no money left for myself. No luxuries. Not even small things. In the end, Kimi resorted to calling a home appliance recycler and sold off the television and washing machine. That's how he got the money to buy his girlfriend a gift. I stared at the empty living room and balcony. But I wasn't angry. The washing machine is gone. You'll have to wash your own clothes from now on. Kimi, feeling guilty, hadn't fulfilled my ansai. Didn't argue. Every day, heavy day, he would bring his laundry to me, washing it in front of me, seemingly hoping I would soften when I saw him struggling. I watched as he clumsily splashed water on the floor. When you're done, don't forget to mop the floor. It's wet everywhere. Kimi had tried to make amends. But no matter what he said, whether apologizing or even fasting, I didn't care. Kimi couldn't understand why I had changed so much. Why I was so indifferent. His voice cracked with emotion. Mom, why don't you care about me anymore? I have to cook for myself every day and wash my clothes. I have no time to study. Do you really want to see me fail the college entrance exam? I paused, my hand still holding my phone. Why should I care? Youth has no price. Madness is in the present. I can't let you live for me. Kimi, I want you to live for yourself. Besides, whether or not you go to college is your choice. I don't want you to resent me later, thinking I interfered with your life. As I spoke, Kimi's face turned an awkward shade, flushed with shame and embarrassment. Kimi hadn't studied at all. It seemed like he was trying to prove something to me, attempting to show off with a score that would make me regret my decisions. When the exam results came out, his score was only half of what it had been in my previous life. Not only could he not get into the 985 school like he did before, but now he could barely get into a technical college. Kimi thought I would be angry when I saw the results. But when I reacted calmly, he became furious with himself. It was strange he had been the one to claim he didn't want to go to college. Yet now that he couldn't get in, he was upset. But there was worse news for Kimi. His girlfriend had called to break up with him. She said her family couldn't accept having a husband from a school like Lan Xion. Kimi didn't know. But I did. In my past life, Kimi had gotten into 985. Yet his girlfriend still broke up with him. The reason had just been different. In that life, she said, I can't accept a boyfriend with a settled life. I want to live recklessly while I'm young. So Kimi felt he had lost his dreams, lost his love, and blamed me for it. After years of nurturing hatred, he finally caused my death. Kimi stood in front of me, holding his score report and lowering his head. Mom, I didn't do well. I didn't even look at it. It's alright. Exams aren't the only thing that matter. As long as you're happy. I'm proud of you. No matter what your results are. Kimi couldn't hold back anymore. You're still mocking me? Other parents want their kids to succeed. But you just want me to be a failure. I grew even more confused. I still don't understand. Isn't this what you wanted? Kimi's face turned pale. And he nearly fainted from the shock of my indifference. He couldn't argue with me. Kimi soon realized that he couldn't force me into submission to her moral guilt. He seemed to make up his mind, suddenly dropping to his knees. Mom, I was wrong. Please, don't abandon me. I want to retake the exam. I can't live my life aimlessly. I didn't help him up. Instead, I asked, what about your dream? If you go back to school, you won't be able to play as a professional gamer anymore. Kimi was almost in tears. Mom, having fulfilled my obsession. Stop mocking me. I'm serious. I know I was wrong. I don't want to be a professional gamer anymore. Please, help me. I sighed. I had known for a long time that he would regret asking to retake the exam. After everything that had happened, I realized Kimi was someone who enjoyed making a mess of things, only to ask for help when it became unbearable. So I turned and retrieved a high-end keyboard from my room. Since you've decided to retake the exam, I'll have to return this keyboard. I bought it to support your dream, but I didn't expect you to give up so quickly. Kimi looked at the keyboard, his shoulders shaking with emotion. Mom, I'm sorry. Yell at me if you want. I really know I was wrong. I won't play games anymore. I interrupted him. It's not about playing games. It's about being a professional gamer. That's not the same thing. Kimi stared at the keyboard. And for the first time, it seemed like he understood. You're setting me up. You're enabling me. Letting me ruin my life. You're doing this on purpose. Aren't you? I didn't answer. Instead, I asked, wasn't it you who said this? I'm just following your wishes. Why do you always assume the worst about me? Kimi suddenly stood up. Fury in his eyes. I'm going to find Dad. I'm retaking the exam. Once I'm successful, I won't take care of you when you're old. You'll regret it. True to his word, Kimi immediately called his mother, Antoni, and they came to my house. Kimi's mother was a force to be reckoned with. As soon as she arrived, she sat down on the floor and began wailing. My poor grandson. He was such a smart child, and look what this vicious woman has turned him into. Do you even deserve to be called a mother? Now you've ruined my grandson's life. And you're living comfortably. Kimi's mother's words affected Kimi. He too began to cry out. Grandma, you don't understand. I have to cook for myself every day and wash my clothes. I don't have time to study. Last time, I got hit on the head. And she didn't even care. Instead, she tried to send me to jail. I really had no choice but to come to you for help. Watching the mother and son cry together, Antoni couldn't help but shed a tear. Yuki, I won't hold the past against you. If you let Kimi retake the exam, we'll consider it all in the past. It turned out that this performance was all about getting me to pay for Kimi's retake. I quickly nodded. All right. Let him retake it. The three of them were taken aback by my quick response, unsure of what to say next. But before they could celebrate, I continued, however, I don't have the money. I only have a few thousand left in savings. Which isn't enough for a retake. Since you and his grandmother care so much about him, you can handle the costs for his retake. When he succeeds, he'll pay you back. Kimi was the first to react. You're lying. We had money for the extra classes before. How could we not have money for the retake? I sighed. The extra classes were paid for with loans. I'm older now, and getting another loan won't be easy. Kimi hadn't expected me to hold my ground so firmly. His face dark and with every passing second. Mom, this is the last time I'll ever call you that. If you really refuse to pay for my retake year, then I'll move my household registration to my dad's place today. He'll definitely pay for it. Hearing that, I almost wondered if I'd forgotten to give him a brain when I gave birth. How could he still think I was doing this out of spite? Or that I still desperately wanted him as my son? I rolled my eyes. Impatient. All the better. Kimi's mother, who had been sitting awkwardly on the floor for quite some time, finally struggled to her feet, clutching her lower back. Seeing that I had no intention of helping her, she straightened up and said awkwardly, Don't worry, Kimi. Your dad will definitely pay for your tuition. Then she shot me a cold glance. You'd better understand he only has a father now. No mother. The two of them clung to each other. Crying again. Antoni, meanwhile, stayed silent. He thought I would reimburse the 10,000 from last time. He hadn't expected me to refuse even a single cent. Now they were asking for more money. And he knew repeating a year wasn't cheap. Not to mention, his wife probably hadn't stopped scolding him for that previous payment. Kimi, let out a low sigh. Seeing Antoni's silence, called out in frustration. Dad, Antoni sighed. Kimi, let out a low sigh. You know, there are many ways to succeed. You don't have to go to college. Even a trade school can lead to a good future. I clenched my fist so tightly it hurt just to keep from laughing. Kimi was too angry to speak, but his mother caught on quickly. Realizing that Antoni didn't want to pay, she instantly switched sides. Your dad's right. Capable people don't need a diploma to prove themselves. The shift was so sudden that Kimi's face turned pale. Unable to keep up with the change in wind, he spun around and bolted out of the house. It wasn't until the door slammed shut that his mother seemed to come back to life. She pointed a trembling finger at me. You look at you. Couldn't keep your husband. Couldn't raise your son. What good are you? Antoni joined in. You promised you'd take good care of him. That's the only reason I agreed to let him stay with you. I sneered. Spare me the noble act. Your mistress just didn't want you bringing your son into her house. Isn't that right? I gave them no mercy. Laying bare every sordid detail of the past, Kimi's mother clutched her chest dramatically. Oh, my heart. I rolled my eyes. I know you're perfectly fine. Who are you putting on this show for? There's no audience here. And Tani's eyes swept over the room. This place is worth some money. Why don't you sell it or mortgage it, and use the money for your son's tuition? Kimi's mother nodded quickly. Exactly. Either way, when you die, the house will go to your son. Then let's talk about it after I'm dead. Unfortunately for you, I'm still alive. And as long as I am, this house is mine. I pointed at the door. You should both leave before you make yourselves any more miserable. Her face went almost black with rage if she hadn't had heart problems before. I was sure I'd just given her one. Is this how you talk to me? I used to be your mother. I pointed at the portrait hanging on the wall. My mother's up there. So tell me, who exactly are you trying to be? You've got your own son standing right next to you. Stop trying to play mother where you don't belong. After a scene of chaos worthy of a chicken coop, and Tani and Kimi's mother finally realized they'd get nothing from me. They stormed out, muttering curses as they went. You'll regret this. You'll get what's coming to you. I didn't expect retribution to arrive so soon. Kimi stood pitifully at the door. Mom, having fulfilled my obsession. Your birthday's coming up. I came back because I want to spend it with you. Well, look at that, hell must have frozen over. Kimi actually remembered my birthday. Seeing my guarded expression, he softened. His tone almost humble. Mom, I've really learned a lot these past days. I was selfish before. I didn't understand how hard you've worked. I've decided not to retake the exam. I'll go to a trade school instead. Study hard, find a job, and be a good son to you. For the next 2 days. He kept up the act, perfectly gentle, polite, even sweet. One morning, he hid away in the kitchen for ages, and finally emerged with a steaming bowl of longevity noodles. Mom, eat this. It's for your health and long life. I looked at the hot bowl and his earnest face and sighed. Long life noodles? More like a last meal. I knew Kimi too well. This wasn't remorse, it was strategy. He was trying to soften me, waiting for me to drop my guard. And if I didn't, he'd make sure I regretted it. So I put on a show of being deeply moved, tears shimmering in my eyes, covering my mouth as if overcome, and slipped quietly into my bedroom. Kimi stared at the closed door, his face growing darker by the second. Mom, come out. We'll be fine from now on. I promise. I didn't respond. I simply took out my phone and dialed the police. He kept knocking, but I stayed silent. The next knock that came was from the officers at the door. Who called the police? I stepped out of my room. I did. I suspect my son tried to poison me. The officers glanced at the still steaming noodles on the table, nodded, and took the bowl away for testing. The results came back quickly, just as I'd expected. The noodles contained a lethal dose of poison. Kimi collapsed to the ground, shaking his head frantically. No. I didn't do anything. The test must be wrong. There's no proof. I had no reason to hurt my own mother. We've always relied on each other. I'd never harm her. I pointed to the air conditioner in the corner. There's a camera up there. It has a full view of the kitchen. You can check the footage. He froze. Clearly, hadn't fulfilled my sigh. He hadn't expected me to have cameras installed. Finally, hadn't fulfilled my sigh. He muttered. Fine. I admit I made the noodles. But I swear I didn't put in anything lethal. The officer's tone turned sharp. Then what did you put in? Kimi hesitated. Then, let out a low sigh. Under the officer's hard stare. Lowered his head. Just a little blood pressure medication. I just wanted to make her feel unwell. Then I could take her to the hospital and take care of her. She'd see that I was a good son and start treating me the way she used to. Should pay for my college again. The officer wrote down his statement. Where did you get the medication? Kimi didn't even hesitate. It was my dad and my grandma. Grandma has high blood pressure, so she needs medication. It was grandma who said that if I did this, we could control mom, make her sell the house and pay for my schooling. So it can't possibly be a lethal poison. You must have gotten the test results wrong. But whether it was lethal or not wasn't up to Kimi. It was up to the lab report. Kimi was detained, while Antoni and Kimi's mother were also invited by the police to come in for questioning. Antoni and Kimi's mother naturally denied everything. At first, they refused to even admit to owning the blood pressure medication. It wasn't until Kimi confronted them that they reluctantly claimed Kimi had stolen the pills, insisting they had no idea where any poison might have come from. In order to gain leniency, the two began blaming Kimi, calling him immature, rebellious, and unfilial. They swore firmly, if there really was poison in that bowl, then Kimi must have been the one who put it there. He's always hated his mother. Because there was no solid evidence, and because neither Antoni nor Kimi's mother directly benefited from my death, they were released without charge. The attempted murder charge fell entirely on Kimi. Since I issued a letter of forgiveness, he was sentenced to only 4 years in prison. During those 4 years, I visited him occasionally. Almost every time, Kimi would plead with me. Mom, I really didn't poison you. It was Dad and Grandma who gave me the medicine. Please, believe me. I would nod. I know. I do believe you. It wasn't until Kimi was about to be released that I spoke to him in earnest. They definitely wanted me dead. Once I died, the house would be yours. But since you're a convicted criminal, the property would fall into their hands. Kimi frowned, conflicted but still unwilling to believe. That's impossible. Dad loves me. I'm Grandma's eldest grandson, she adores me. How could they ever harm me? I shook my head. You're too naive. Your father only cares about his youngest son now. Besides, this was a perfect setup. If I had died and you somehow escaped conviction, they'd still have leverage over you for life. But if you didn't escape, you'd be sentenced to death and they'd inherit everything anyway. Over those 4 years, I could see how much Kimi had changed. Prison, and the abuse he endured inside, had twisted him completely. As his anger grew day by day, I knew the time was nearly right. Don't dwell on it anymore, I told him. Your life may be ruined, but at least you're still alive. You can't go back to school now, but once you're released, I'll find you a job. Maybe as a security guard. It's easy and stable. Work hard, find a girlfriend, get married. You can still live a peaceful life. The more he listened, the more furious he became. Why should I? Seeing that I'd provoked the response I wanted, I simply told him I'd come back in a few days to take him home, then left. When the day of his release finally came, I went to pick Kimi up, but he was already gone. I guessed where he'd gone. And sure enough, when I arrived, I found him arguing with Antoni. Kimi's eyes were red and wild, his expression almost feral. I treated you like a father. Why did you do this to me? Why? You ruined my entire life. Do you even realize that? Antoni, faced with Kimi's madness, looked completely lost. He shielded his younger son instinctively, afraid that Kimi might lash out. Kimi, have you gone insane in prison? You brought this on yourself. You deserve everything that's happened to you. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the police and have you thrown back in there. No one knew which of those words snapped the last thread in Kimi's mind. He pulled out the knife he had brought with him and lunged at Antoni. Antoni, unprepared and trying to protect his younger son, took several deep stabs to the chest before collapsing into a pool of blood. Panicked bystanders scattered and called the police. Kimi didn't even try to run. He just stood there, staring straight at me, waiting for the police to take him away. Kimi was sentenced to death for committing murder in broad daylight. The evidence was irrefutable. When I learned of his execution, I went to see him one last time before he died. He looked utterly drained. His spirit withered away. Mom, he said hoarsely. How did my life end up like this? I didn't speak. I simply stared at him quietly. Kimi didn't expect an answer. He just needed to voice the question that still tormented him. Mom, he murmured. That day when I stabbed Dad, he kept insisting it was me who poisoned him. He said it so seriously. Could it be true? Was it really not him who gave me the poison? Was it Grandma? I couldn't help but laugh. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you, your dear Grandma had a heart attack after Antoni's death. She's still in the hospital. Kimi looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Mom, why are you laughing? What do you mean? It took me a while to stop laughing. But even then, I didn't answer him. After all, letting him die without ever figuring it out, that was far more satisfying. But Kimi was quick to catch on. His face twisted as the realization hit him. I see now. The pills Dad and Grandma gave me were just blood pressure medicine. It was you. You were the one who poisoned me. Weren't you? Not entirely stupid. After all. I nodded. That's right. I didn't expect you to actually figure it out. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Kimi's eyes were wide with disbelief. But why? Why would you do that? I'm your only son, how could you possibly want to harm me? Just because I didn't want to go to college? Just because I wanted to play games? I gave a soft meh. First of all, not play games, you called it being a professional gamer. Remember? And second, when you tried to poison me, did it ever occur to you that you might kill me? He had no words. Because deep down, he knew it was true. That had been his intention. But I didn't actually go through with it. Kimi's voice rose in desperation. I met his fury head on. You didn't do it simply because you weren't capable of it. For so long. I had swallowed those words, but now, finally, heading to why I could say them aloud. My tone soft, and as I continued. Actually, I was reborn. In my previous life. With my constant urging and all the tutoring I paid for. You got into a top-tier university. You were a genius, a Ph.D. in medicine before you were even 30. But when you became a postdoctoral researcher, you created your own poison. You made me suffer from cancer. Writhing in agony until I died. I never thought I'd get a second chance. So this time, I chose to set you free. I didn't force you to study or control your path. But I didn't expect you to waste your life again and still come back to beg for a retake. So I simply decided to play along. Consider this death sentence your way of dying for the version of you that should have died long ago. Kimi's eyes were lifeless. As dull as stagnant water except when I mentioned the words Ph.D. in medicine. Then, let out a low sigh. For a brief moment. Something flickered in his gaze. But I didn't bother explaining further. I turned and walked away. After only a few steps, I heard the violent sound of him smashing his head against the glass. Screaming curses behind me. Wishing me a horrible death. I didn't look back. Those who harm me are the ones destined to die miserably, not me. The college entrance examination had just ended. The daughter I had painstakingly raised had become the top science student. While my son, who was left to his own devices, had barely passed the college entrance threshold. The media from all over the city came to interview us. And I thought she would be grateful. But to my surprise, she took out her biological mother's memorial tablet. Every word a cry of blood. Mom, gutting for so wide session. Even though Auntie has been harsh with me, I still became the top student through my own effort. So many times. When I scored 99, she would blame me for being careless. But when my brother barely passed, she didn't say a word. She forced me to deliver newspapers and milk during the holidays, while my brother stayed home, blowing the air conditioner and reading comics. At her house, every second of my time was accounted for. I had to do everything at the exact right moment. I could barely breathe. Maybe that's what it's like when you're a guest in someone else's home. At least it's over now. The boat has passed 10,000 mountains. The media turned their attention to me and my son, slandering us without mercy. My son couldn't handle the dual blow of his failure in the entrance exams and the cyberbullying. He spiraled into depression and jumped to his death. I stumbled out to claim his body, only to be shoved into a river by an angry crowd. When I opened my eyes again, my niece, whose parents had passed away, was standing in front of me. Her eyes red from crying, seeking refuge. Since all my efforts seemed to be seen as malice. This time, I didn't care. You're welcome to stay at my house. But I won't sign an adoption agreement. After sending the civil affairs office staff away, I didn't force my son to give up his bedroom as I had done in the past. Instead, I arranged for my niece, Zoe, to stay in the study. She nervously tugged at the straps of her backpack, cautiously testing the waters. The reason you won't sign the adoption agreement is because you can't treat me as your own daughter, right? Without hesitation, I answered directly. Yes. Her face paled slightly. Taking you in is out of respect for my sister. I will treat you as a guest. Provide for your needs. But no matter what, I won't treat you as my own child. Of course. You don't have to treat me as your mother either. As night fell, I faintly heard her sobbing softly in her room after the lights were out. My husband, Owen, asked if I wanted to go comfort her. My son, Ethan, even sent over a stuffed bear to cheer her up. Such kind-hearted family members. In my past life, I had poured all my energy into raising Zoe. And my relationship with my own family grew distant and strained. It really wasn't worth it. The two kids attended the same middle school. After the final exams, Ethan ranked in the top 100 of his grade. Zoe, affected by the loss of her parents, fell to 200. I have no parents. No one cares about me. Does it even matter what my rank is? She yelled, locking herself in the study and refusing to come out. In my past life, this was the moment when I felt an unprecedented sense of responsibility. I grabbed her and pulled her out of her room. I patiently advised her not to give up on herself. To cope with the post-traumatic stress that caused her lack of focus, I stayed up late, making her a mistake book, making her repeat and practice over and over the careless mistakes she made. I was overjoyed when she slowly got back into the swing of things. I never expected that my efforts would be seen as deliberate cruelty. Mom. Zoe. Ethan laid the test paper on the table, looking worriedly at the door. Everyone has their own fate. As long as we have a clear conscience, that's enough. I began helping Eve and go over his mistakes one by one, understanding the weak points in his knowledge. After a semester, the mistake book was thick and full. Ethan, do you think I'm pushing you too hard? I mean, being in the top 100 is already really good. I was afraid that my tough approach had once again pushed my son, who had finally grown close to me, away. But Ethan shook his head. Of course not. My buddy's parents don't care about him at all. He studies every day until his head hurts. But it's not efficient. This mistake book? You wrote it all out by hand for me. It saved me so much effort. Don't worry. Next time I'll improve. I patted his head. It suddenly struck me that he had grown as tall as I was. And there was a faint shadow of a mustache on his upper lip. In my past life, I thought his complaints about being neglected were simply jealousy. Now, I realized I had been unfair to him for too long. Luckily, it's not too late. I will give him all the love I have left. Zoe, however, opened the door and came out on her own. Afterward, everything went on as usual, eating, going to school, and so on. When I was making a study plan for Ethan, I asked her about her own plan as well. But she was always inconsistent, unable to follow through. I didn't force her as I had in the past. After middle school, Ethan entered the city's top school, while Zoe only made it into a regular high school. Ethan wanted to comfort her, but he found an open diary on her desk. In it, she had written full of hatred towards me. In my past life, I was so focused on guiding Zoe that I only realized how violent and bloody this comic was when Ethan had already become addicted to it. He even found a bunch of like-minded delinquents to form a brotherhood and became increasingly rebellious. I'll keep this comic for you. I'll return it when I think your values have matured. I told him as I forcibly confiscated the comic and signed him up for life skills classes. At that moment, Zoe came back home. She was dressed in a delicate Lolita dress, and her makeup was more exaggerated than mine. Despite my being much older, I enrolled Ethan in a life skills class. And he also needs to start learning high school subjects ahead of time. Zoe, if you're interested, you can join as well. Bang! Before I could finish, she slammed the door shut. Taking Ethan out to deliver newspapers was completely different from when I took Zoe. Ethan would notice when I woke up early and, exhausted, couldn't keep up with his pace. He would stop me in the middle of the street, pulling me in front of him to protect me. After a busy morning, at the breakfast stall, having fulfilled my ancestor, he declared, "Mom, I'm going to a tutoring class. I quickly secured a spot for him. Good. It's all for your future. He shook his head. Mom. I want to work hard myself so that you and Dad can lead a good life. You guys not only have to work to earn money and support me and my sister, but you also have to take care of everything in our lives. I will make something of myself and make sure you guys enjoy life. The light in Ethan's eyes made me feel guilty deep inside. I owed him so much. And all I could do was try to make up for it. The school entrance exam after the summer vacation was coming. Ifan, who had prepared in advance, successfully entered the top 10 in his grade and was placed in the experimental class. Meanwhile, Oe, Goodleaf too, who wasn't doing that well, continued to languish in the regular class. Ethan's tutoring class is good. Do you want to? Every time I made plans for Ethan, I would ask Zoe. She only grunted. Isn't it just because you think my grades are bad? Let me tell you. Good grades don't mean a good job. I've already figured out my way. With that, she stormed downstairs. She got on a motorcycle with a boy with messy blonde hair, riding off without a second glance. The tense final year of high school arrived. My husband, who had been working overseas for a long time, was willing to take a pay cut just to return home and support the kids with their studies. From today on, our family is entering the Gaokao mode. Study while eating. Study while having fun. Make more time for studying. This was the approach I had used with Zoe in my past life. The high-pressure style effectively curbed her procrastination and lack of planning, and it even helped her become more accustomed to learning under heavy pressure. As fragile as her psyche was, she never expressed strong discontent. Yet, in a high-profile setting, she complained that this strategy, which kept her at the top of her class, was suffocating. Now, at the same dinner table, she sneered. This is so fascist. We are born free. Why are you controlling everything about us? I had no idea where she had picked up such words. Probably from the bad students at school. Ifan sighed. Sis. Mom is also doing this for our grades. Isn't she working hard with us? Zoe pushed her bowl away. You've been brainwashed. Fine. If you want to be a slave. I don't care. Don't drag me into this. I've got something to do. I'm leaving. I glanced at the clock. It was already 7. My instinct made me ask. Wait. Where are you going? She rolled her eyes. Why do you care? You haven't even signed the adoption papers. And you're not my legal guardian. Why interfere with me? Grabbing her bag, she rushed out the door. My husband and son were worried, so they quickly followed her. Even though Zoe had betrayed me terribly in my past life, I still didn't want anything bad to happen to her. So I ran after them. We got into the car and followed a taxi through winding streets, eventually stopping in front of a building. Inside, there were cubicles, and girls with heavy makeup and revealing outfits sang and danced in front of cameras. Zoe, come out. We yelled in the hallway. My husband found the front desk manager, slammed his hand on the table, and said, my daughter's Oe is underage. If you're employing child labor, I'll sue you. The manager swallowed nervously and sent a blonde-haired guy to bring Zoe out. When she appeared, her shoulder was exposed, and there was a provocative glint in her eyes. Anger bubbled up in me, and I raised my hand, feeling like I wanted to teach this ignorant daughter a lesson. What? Are you going to hit me? I'll call the police and accuse you of child abuse. She stuck out her chin, not thinking she was in the wrong at all. In that moment, the heavy cloud hanging over my heart lifted. I gently lowered my hand and smiled at her. After all, you're still a student. It's inappropriate to be out this late. Whatever. Let's get you graduated first. She glared at me defiantly. You said it. Once I graduate, you'll stop interfering with me. That's right. Once you turn 18 after the college entrance exam, I won't interfere with you anymore. She came back home with us. Kaithan, always observant, noted the brand of Zoe's clothes and quickly found her live stream account online. In the past videos, apart from those provocative, attention-grabbing ones, and most popular content was her complaints about our family. My aunt took me in just for my parents' inheritance. What's wrong with her feeding and taking care of me? She should. I haven't seen a dime of the family's money. She must have swallowed it all. She doesn't care about my studies at all. Just focuses on her precious son. So what if his grades are good? Good grades won't help a bookworm. The viewers were whipped into a frenzy, coming up with plans to help her get revenge on me. Her unfeeling aunt. One particularly popular comment stood out. Since she cares so much about her son, then hit her where it hurts. Zoe replied, I've already got it all planned. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. I promise my gift will make them remember it for a lifetime. The tense final exams for the college entrance exam were finally over. The day the results were released, Zoe tightly held her exam admission ticket, refusing to let us see it. After checking the results quietly, she sat on the couch in silence. We logged into the system and entered Ethan's information. Strange. Why is there no score? My husband exclaimed. I suddenly realized. Ethan, did you do so well that the system is blocking your score? Just as I was saying this, the exam office called. Is this Ethan? Congratulations. With a total score of 723. You've achieved first place in the city in the science track. I did it. Ethan jumped up excitedly, then ran over to hug me. Mom. Thank you. Thank you. Tears welled up in my eyes. Looking at the cheerful Ethan in front of me, I couldn't bear to imagine how much he must have suffered in my past life to have fallen into depression. As soon as the news broke, the media rushed to make appointment interviews. I agreed to all of them and busied myself cleaning the house with my husband. However, Zoe, in an unexpected turn, not only helped with the housework but also eagerly inquired about the interview arrangements. She frequently went into her room to make phone calls, sometimes for an hour or two at a time. A vague feeling of unease began to settle in my heart. On the day of the interview, the living room was crowded with journalists. We had no choice but to open the door wide. Outside, there were layers of neighbors gathered to watch. Ethan, asanade walsai. Could you tell us how you achieved such excellent results? Ethan took the microphone and gently looked at me. Because when I was in middle school, my mom would help me organize every mistake I made. Her hands were calloused from writing so much. When I was obsessed with comics, she made me experience real-life hardships, so I could understand the value of hard work and find motivation. During the entire year leading up to the entrance exams, she strictly managed my time with a high-pressure approach, which kept me in the best mental state, allowing me to perform at this level. He took my hand and led me to the front. Accepting the congratulations, a warm current surged in my heart. It turned out that my efforts could be recognized and appreciated. Then, what out at well sigh? May I ask, this top student's mother, did your son's success come at the cost of others? Following the voice, I saw it was the live streaming guy with yellow hair. Of course. Zoe walked right into the center of the crowd. Her account was still live streaming. The tag exposing the true face of the top student's mother appeared on the screen, and the viewer count soared. Ever since my parents passed away and Auntie took me in, she's treated me like an outsider, always keeping me at arm's length. She never bothered about my studies or my mental health. She only focused on helping my brother with his mistakes and life experiences. Look at the scars on my wrist. Even if I had died then, no one would have known. I have one request now. Please, Auntie, return the inheritance left by my parents so that I can survive. The crowd murmured in shock. It shouldn't be like this. Nora buys chicken, duck, and fish every day. That's what I've seen. You don't understand. This is about knowing a person's face, not their heart. Eating and drinking isn't the point. Ruining a child's future is what's most important. Intentionally using her niece as a negative example to highlight her son's success, her mind is too malicious. Even the online comments were flooded with accusations. Give the money back. Return the inheritance. In no time, her followers surged. Meanwhile, my son and I became the complete villains, cursed by thousands. Everything seemed to be falling back into the same pattern as in my past life. Since everyone is so concerned about my family's situation, I have a few documents you might want to look at. My husband helped me open the TV and plugged in the USB drive containing the files. When the first image appeared on the screen, Zoe rushed up and tried to block it, shouting, "Fake. All fake." Unfortunately, heading for fooled me. The TV screen was too large for her to block. The content of the video was clear for all to see. It was from when she first came to our house. Because of the trauma from her parents' death, Zoe struggled to focus, making frequent simple calculation errors. "These are your mistakes from the exam. I've copied them for you. Want to do them again and reinforce the learning?" The practice paper I handed her was torn to pieces as soon as she grabbed it. "It's just a few wrong questions. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" Once, twice, 3 times. Each time, it was the same. In my past life, I tirelessly worked with her until the 10th attempt before she finally agreed to go over the mistakes I had organized for her. But now, I had given up. Who could say I hadn't done enough? The neighbors began to discuss among themselves. "Look at how much Auntie has done. Even a real mother wouldn't have this much patience to coax her every day. Your own studies must be your own responsibility. No one can do it for you." Zoe, seeing that things were turning sour, shouted angrily, "How could you install a camera in my room? You're violating my privacy." I had to admit, she always knew how to hit the mark. As soon as those words left her mouth, comments flooded in, accusing me of not respecting my child's private space. Some even maliciously speculated that it was my husband who had secretly installed the cameras. I walked over to her, lifting her scarred right wrist. "Ever since your parents passed away, you've had a tendency to self-harm. If it weren't for the surveillance, how could I have saved you in time? If something had happened to you, how would I explain it to your dead mother? Why do you insist on twisting my good intentions again and again?" She was left speechless. The video continued to play. I had asked her to do life experience, but she complained about the heat outside, about getting up too early and being too tired. If my real mom were still here, she would never let me suffer like this. That one sentence shut me down completely. She refused to go to extracurricular classes, preferring to sleep all day. During the final countdown to the college entrance exams, she couldn't care less. Her comments attacking me as a fascist made all the neighbors gasp in disbelief. "They didn't force you to study. But you said such harsh things. If they were as strict with you as they are with their own son, you'd really become an enemy. Wouldn't you? You clearly refused. Yet you have the nerve to say people are biased? I really want to know. With all this noise, what did you actually score?" The comments were flooding in. "Show your score. Is it a horse or a mule? Let's see it." Zoe tightly pressed her lips together, instinctively glancing at her desk. The neighbor's child, who was close by, quickly opened a drawer and pulled out a printed score sheet. 4, 7, 8 for 78. Is that all? If you had put in some effort, you wouldn't have ended up like this. All your energy was spent on everything but studying. And now you blame others for not caring for you. What a thankless child. Her face shifted from green to pale, as if she wanted to find a hole to crawl into. With this score, she could barely get into a vocational college. Even Ethan, who I had neglected in my past life, at least scored enough to enter university. Zoe had truly given up on herself. How could she be so stagnant? "Everyone, please don't let her deceive you." She continued to grind her teeth, accusing me. "My parents' inheritance is in her hands. This is an undeniable fact. She has to return it to me." Under the scrutinizing eyes of the crowd, I smiled faintly. "All right. You're 18 now. It's time to settle accounts for all these years of spending, as well as your parents' inheritance." Back when Zoe's parents had died in the car accident, the Civil Affairs Department had contacted her grandparents to see if they could raise her. But they dismissed her, claiming they were too old to take on the responsibility and had other grandchildren to care for. As for the inheritance, you probably don't know this, but the cause of the accident was fatigue driving. Your father was fully responsible. Your family hasn't had much savings over the years. It all went to compensation. As for the money I've spent on you, there's an account book you can check. I handed her the account books I had kept over the years. She casually flipped through a few pages. Then, the pages began to turn faster, and she shouted, "Impossible! How could you have spent this much?" Besides, you didn't take a penny from my family, how would you be willing to raise me? I don't believe it. I reached out to pat her head, only to realize that she had grown taller and stronger than me. No longer that skinny little girl who had come seeking refuge. If you don't believe it, ask your grandparents. The only reason I raised you is because you're my sister's daughter. Now that you're 18, I've given everything I could to raise you. I've spent a total of 200,000 to 300,000, and I have no regrets. As I finished speaking, thunderous applause erupted around us. More and more neighbors and online supporters rallied behind me, voicing their support. The top student's mother has raised her sister's daughter with great effort, but unexpectedly. Instead of being grateful, the girl wants to ruin her benefactor. She's utterly ungrateful, heartless, and vicious. It's said that her grandparents don't want to take her in. She should be sent to a welfare home. She doesn't deserve any family. The neighbors dispersed. The media returned to write their reports. The passersby in the live stream flooded the comments with anger. Even the fans who once followed her tragic stories no longer believed her lies. Before leaving, she clutched onto the blonde-haired guy with all her might. Wait. You promised to help me become famous and asked me to cooperate. Now look at what you've done? The blonde guy shot her a harsh glare and shook off her hand. You messed this up yourself. Now you're worthless. What do you need me for? Get out of my way. With a shove, Zoe fell to the ground. When she looked up, he was already gone. Aunt. He didn't know what to say. I then stepped forward and helped her up. Brother. I'm sorry. I normally so forgiving. Ethan was about to say it was okay when I stopped him. You really do owe Ethan an apology. On the most important day of his 18 years. The most glorious moment of his life. You stole all the attention. She didn't expect me to scold her so harshly. She was about to argue like before. But then she just clamped her mouth shut. She knew. Deep down. She no longer had the power to oppose me. Fun, Ethan. I'll hold another celebration for you. And this time, you will be the sole star. Ethan scratched his head, nonchalantly. Mom. It's not that big of a deal. Sis just wasn't thinking clearly for a moment. I don't blame her. That's my son. He'd rather suffer himself than let others be in a difficult position. That's why I couldn't keep owing him. Everything others have, he should have. And he deserves more. As for Zoe, you're 18 now, I think. Before I could finish, Zoe suddenly broke down in tears, grabbing my hands like they were a lifeline. Aunt, I've been selfish and extreme. For my mom's sake, at least help me with getting into college. I've checked. As long as I pay, there are private universities that will accept me. Please. I'm begging you. I opened the door to the study where she had lived for 6 years. When she arrived, she only had a backpack, but now, her belongings required 2 large suitcases to hold them all. Leave now. Her mouth hung open in shock. You said it yourself. After you turn 18. You wouldn't want me to care about you anymore. I promised you I wouldn't interfere. Now, leave. After that, no matter how much she cried or how sincere her apologies seemed, even when my husband and Ethan tried to persuade me, I pointed at the suitcase firmly. Pack your things. You can go live with your grandparents. Work. Or do anything you want, I don't care. I won't ask for the money I spent on raising you. And I won't give you another penny in the future. Realizing that I wouldn't change my mind, Zoe wiped her tears and threw her things around, making loud noises. What's so great about it? Just because you have some dirty money, do you think I'm going to beg you? I have my grandparents. They contacted me before the exam and invited me to live with them. I'm going back now. I don't believe I can't live without you. She dragged the 2 suitcases and stormed out the door. I immediately contacted the locksmith to change the locks, installing an intelligent lock with surveillance capabilities, only allowing us 3 family members access. Mom, having fulfilled my obsession, do we really have to guard against sis like she's a thief? Ethan's heart softened. He was acting just like he did in my past life, when he cared so deeply for Zoe. Fun, Ethan. I know you're kind-hearted. But when kindness is misplaced, it doesn't lead to good outcomes. It becomes a sword that stabs you in the back. Do you understand? He nodded, though only half understanding. We, as a family, went out to celebrate with hot pot, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. No longer having to think about Zoe. Next, we got busy choosing a major for Ethan. I had already done some research in my past life. The future would belong to the rise of computer technology. How about studying computer science? We said it in unison. It turned out he was also interested in computers. Which was perfect. After filling out his applications. On our way home, we passed by Zoe's school. She was holding hands with two elderly people, walking out of the campus gate, looking smug when she saw me. "Aunt, I've submitted my applications. I didn't do well in the exams. But my grandparents are willing to support me to attend a private school. I'll still be able to go to college. How about that? Are you disappointed?" She was still so childish. Not wanting to engage in any more conflict, I simply smiled and responded, "Congratulations. I wish you a bright future." Just as we were about to leave with my husband and son, Zoe's grandmother pulled me aside, whispering, "Since Zoe will be with us from now on, you won't continue to hold on to her parents' inheritance, will you?" "The inheritance again." I sighed helplessly. "I've already told you. Their inheritance has all gone to compensate the victims of the car accident. They didn't have much money to begin with." Her grandmother clicked her tongue and gave me a sideways glance. "If you don't want to give, that's fine. But don't lie. If there were no benefits, would you have rushed to help them with their affairs and taken Zoe into your home?" "Perhaps. In their eyes, everything people do is for personal gain. That's because they themselves are like that. If you don't believe me, I can't help you. I have to go now." I refused to get caught up in any more pointless arguments and walked away with my husband and son. Behind us, Zoe's voice rang out. "Nora, don't think you're off the hook just because you won't admit it. Grandma said the house my parents left is worth $2 million. How could there be nothing left? Just wait. I'll make you give all the money back." A few days later, I received a court summons. Zoe had actually formally sued me, accusing me of embezzling her parents' inheritance. When I arrived at the court with a thick stack of bank statements and my own carefully recorded ledger, I saw her grandparents whispering to her. As I approached, her grandmother immediately put on a reluctant expression. "Child, we didn't want to bring this to court. We won't argue about how much the house was sold for or what's left. If you pay us $500,000, we can call it even. How about that?" I bypassed her and walked straight to the or what's left. "If you pay us $500,000, we can call it even. How about that?" I bypassed her and walked straight to the defendant's seat. The plaintiff began. And Zoe, tearfully, hitting fulfilled, once again played the role of the suffering orphan, painting a picture of her hardships under our roof. Her grandmother even joined in from the jury seats, shouting, "How could Auntie do this? She's been so cruel to our child. It's just pitiful." The jury, unaware of the full story, followed suit and criticized me. When it was my turn to speak, I asked one question. "Zoe's grandmother, you've said a lot. But let me ask you this, when the Civil Affairs Department contacted you, why didn't you agree to take Zoe in?" Her eyes flicked nervously to the side, and she cleared her throat. "Well, my health wasn't good. And besides, I still had to take care of my grandson." I sneered. "Since you didn't raise her, you have no right to speak. As for whether I embezzled the inheritance, here's all the evidence. Please have a look." When handling my sister and brother-in-law's funeral arrangements, I made sure to keep a complete record of every incoming and outgoing transaction to avoid any disputes. The house was auctioned by the government, and the proceeds were given to the victims of the car accident. This can be verified easily. The remaining savings in their names were completely spent after paying for the burial costs. After a review, the defendant Nora did not embezzle any inheritance. The plaintiff's claims are dismissed. As the judge finished speaking, I quickly interjected. "Wait. I want to counter-sue." All eyes turned to me. "I raised Zoe for many years. But we never signed a guardianship agreement. Legally, her guardians are her grandparents. Therefore, I'm suing them for the return of the 300,000 I spent on her upbringing. And I won't even ask for the change. Her grandmother's face turned ashen. And she looked at Zoe with increasing malice. After leaving the courthouse, reporters swarmed toward me. Ms. Nora, did the court rule that you must return the money? Did you really embezzle your sister and brother-in-law's inheritance to raise your own son? How can you live with yourself after doing something like this? I didn't say much. I just looked back at the solemn, imposing doors of the courthouse. You can search the court's judgment online. And you'll see that I didn't do anything. Also, I've countersued them for 300,000 yuan in upbringing expenses. Feel free to follow up. My husband and son were waiting for me not far away. When I approached, Ethan patted my shoulder. Mom, you've worked hard. You were right about not blindly being good to others. I think I understand that now. My husband snorted. Honestly, hadn't foresaw my sigh. It's like a thief biting back way too deep. If I had known, I would have let her and that yellow-haired guy fend for themselves. No more worrying about her. At home, we were waiting for the next court date. But unexpectedly, what came wasn't from the court. It was a phone call from Zoe, crying for help. Auntie, please come save me. I can't take it anymore. Arriving at her grandparents' house, I found Zoe sitting in the yard, washing a large basin of clothes. Her usually delicate face was covered in dirt. Her arms were bruised and marked with obvious signs of abuse. Wash it. Wash it. All you do is eat. Useless broom star. Accursed child. Do you remember when you promised you'd get me a huge compensation? Where's the money? You've made me go through a lawsuit too. You really know how to cause trouble. Listen. If I'm forced to pay compensation, I'll sell you off, she sobbed, but dared not cry out loud. When she saw me standing at the door, she hurried over, tears streaming down her face. Auntie, please take me away. I really know I was wrong this time. You've always been good to me. I was young and didn't understand before. I was deceived by others. Please forgive me just this once. Before I could respond, her grandmother appeared, walking out of the house with a teenage boy. The boy, holding a toy gun, aimed at Zoe's shoulder and shot. She cried out in pain, clutching her shoulder. And then was met with a barrage of scolding from her grandmother. Whining again. Huh? Crying like you're mourning? It's your noise that's ruined and all the good fortune in my house. Once her grandmother walked away, Zoe dared to continue her sob story. Auntie, living here is like being treated as a servant, a slave. They promised me I could go to school, but they never even filled out the applications. I'm done for. I'll never get to go to school again. I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. Auntie, please help me. Seeing her like this, remembering my sister, a pang of sympathy stirred in my heart. But I could never bring myself to take her back home. If you want, I can arrange a restaurant job for you, with food and lodging. You'll earn money, and you can take care of yourself. Since you're 18 now, I can't control you too much. Your life is yours to lead from here on. Her eyes flashed with dissatisfaction, but she nodded repeatedly in agreement. After settling her in, our family set off on a graduation trip. The magnificent mountains and rivers I had missed in my past life, I made sure to see them all this time. My husband and son had a blast. Looking back at the deep divide in our past life, it seemed utterly meaningless now. What could be more important than my own husband and child? After our trip, as we returned to the city, my phone was nearly overwhelmed with calls. A friend who ran a restaurant called to complain. That Zoe of yours. She's absolutely useless. And she can't be scolded. She acts like a little queen. 2 days ago, I told her off for taking the wrong money. And yesterday, I don't know who she conspired with, but she stole all the cash from my restaurant. I haven't reported it to the police because of you, but tell her not to come back. My place is too small for someone like her. I had no idea where Zoe had gone. The court had ruled in my favor by default, and given her grandparents old age. They only had to pay me 100,000 yuan. They cursed her and blamed everything on Zoe. They put on an act of being poor, and I didn't bother arguing with them. As long as they didn't cause trouble for me anymore, that was enough. Before school started, I called the media reporters again and threw Ethan a real celebration banquet. In front of the media, he was unfazed. He spoke confidently about his study experiences and future plans. I could see the light in his eyes, shining directly into my heart. After the interview, as I was sending everyone off, a phone call came through. "Are you a relative of Zoe? She's in some trouble. Please come to the police station." Arriving at the police station, I found Zoe and a yellow-haired guy locked in the interrogation room. After their failed live stream attack against me, the yellow-haired guy had lost his job. Together, they had conspired to steal money from the restaurant owner and spent their days hanging out in internet cafes, playing games. With no money left, they resorted to stealing, eventually breaking into a house, where they were caught by the homeowners. In a fit of panic, the blonde guy grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stabbed someone. What started as theft quickly escalated into an armed robbery. And with Zoe as an accomplice, her sentence was likely to be severe. And, when I visited her, her eyes were red and swollen with tears. "If you help me just this once, I'll work hard and be a better person. I didn't want this to happen. I really didn't mean it." I sighed deeply. "You always like to complain, blaming everyone else for your misfortunes. But have you ever considered that you yourself are the main reason for everything that's happened? If only you had put some effort into your studies. If only you had been willing to work hard and earn money. You had so many options. Yet you chose the worst possible path. How could I possibly save you now?" She buried her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The microphone picked up her soft cries. But I knew, given the chance, she would still tear into me, the one who had helped her so much. Her nature was hard to change, and certainly not something I could fix. As I left the detention center, I looked up at the sky. I thought of my late sister, of the tragic deaths of my son and myself in my past life, and of so many other things. Until, in the distance, my husband and son hurried over from the parking lot, concerned. They called out to me, "Don't be sad. We still have a long road ahead." Yes. Today, heading till Salvoyed session, Ethan had to report to school, and I still needed to send him off. The road ahead was long. I could only hope that after the thorns, there would be a smooth path ahead.